Hi everyone, and welcome to this video. Today we'll be talking about JavaScript string methods. So string method is a very important data type in JavaScript or any other programming language for that matter. You see, in the previous video we talked about primitive data types, and we talked about how string is also a primitive data type, but it has methods available for it. And we also discussed that the reason for that is because there is a string object which is different from string primitive in JavaScript. And JavaScript uses this string object as a wrapper on primitive strings. And that's what enables them to be able to use methods and properties like objects. So we already know how to create strings in the previous video. The purpose of this video is The purpose of this video is to learn about string methods we can use on strings, right? So I already created my file. Go ahead and do the same. And remember, we are running our code with Node. And for those that want to do it with HTML, you can simply go create an HTML file if you have not been following us from the beginning. So we already know how to create strings from the previous lecture. Let's go ahead and create a string that we'll be using in this video. So let's say something like let ostrich, right? Let animal equals ostrich. Yeah. So what happens when we run the code? We already know what will happen when we run the code. Let's go ahead and do console.log animal. Right? Now when we save the code and you come down here and do node string methods.js string underscore methods. There's no need to add .js. You can add it if you want to, but there's no need to. Now, what happens when we want to know the length of the characters in the string? There's a property for that in JavaScript, and the name of the property is called length. So we'll come up here and say console.log, and we use what is called a dot notation, but they also call it object property accessor, right? So what we do now, just like we say console.log, we will come up here and do animal dot, and you can see even without typing anything, VS Code already shows us so many methods and properties available for us for strings. So once again, we want to know the length of characters in the string. So we are going to use the length property. We'll scroll down here, click the length, and save the code. When we come down here, what are we going to expect to see? Page up on the code, we see 7 because ostrich is a 7-letter word. So there is also a string property called prototype, but we can't really talk about it now because it has to do with object-oriented programming, and we talk about it when we get to that point. So we are just going to continue with other methods here. So what happens also if we want to know the position of one of the characters in the string? Okay, let's say the position of T in ostrich. So what do? Let's come here and do console.log animal dot dot character at. It's the one, the first method. So we are going to put 2 in there, right? We want to know the character that is at number 2, index number 2. So we save the code, come down here and run it. We see T, and you might be surprised why we see T. Well, what happens is that in JavaScript, like many other programming language, the index starts from 0. In other words, JavaScript is 0 based. That means when you are counting, unlike your normal maths where you start from 1, in JavaScript we start from 0. So as far as JavaScript is concerned, even though the word ostrich holds 7 letters, when we are going to count it, we will start from 0. So O is 0 and S is 1. So T is 2. When we put in character at 2, we're able to see T because T is at 2. And remember, many of these things, you can save them inside a variable. For instance, instead of saying animal.character, we can set it to a variable, right? So we can say, let my car at, that is character at, equals animal dot character at. Let's use 3 this time around. And what do we have? Save, come down here, run the code. Oh, sorry. I should do console.log my car at. So we come down here and we run the code. We'll expect to see R, right? So JavaScript is 0 based. We are going to be counting it from 0, although it is 7-letter words that are in ostrich, right? But when it's time for us to count each character, we are going to start from 0. So like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, the next method we are going to talk about is concat. So what concat does is, if we want to merge the characters of 2 strings together, we use concat. So let's go ahead and create 2 separate strings, right? Let's do something. Let A equals hello. Save, come down here. Let B equals world, right? So what happened? We do console.log, or we can also go, let's see, we can assign it to a variable, but if we don't want to, you can simply console.log it. Console.log a dot concat. Concat, it's a method, we invoke it. So to invoke methods, we use parentheses. So when we get to functions, we are going to talk more about methods. Methods are functions, right? But we call them methods when they are part of an object or they are inside objects. So why we are calling this method is because they are available for us through the string objects. So they are called methods. Now we are going to do a.concat b, right? Add your curly braces, add your semicolon, save, and we come down here and run the code. So what do we see? We see hello world. Oh, there's no space there. Now you can simply come here and add space to the world, save, when you run it, we expect to see space there, right? Good. But there's also a better way to do it. Concat allows us to add more than one data inside it. So instead of adding space here, we can simply come here and do something like this, right? And inside the quotation, we put space and we separate the two characters with a comma, and that's it. Let's save, go back and run our code, and we'll expect to see the same effects. So we can see hello world with space in it. Now, once again, please click the subscribe button. It may not cost you anything, but it definitely means a lot to me and what I do. Thank you very much in advance. So the next method we are going to talk about is starts with, right? So when you want to know the character that starts or ends a string, you use the starts with method to know the character that starts. Then when you want to know the character that ends a string, we use the ends with method. So let's say something like, for example, console.log a log a dot starts with what? H, right? A dot starts with H. Sorry, it's a string, so we need to put it in quotes. So how starts with and ends with work is that they work with variables. Now, if the character we input here starts with is truly, then we'll expect to see true. And in our case, we'll see true because the variable a starts with H, uppercase H. Let's run our code and we see true because H starts the variable a. Now, mind you, JavaScript is a case-sensitive language, right? So if we come here now and we do something like this, H, a lowercase h, and we save, our code will tell us false. Because as far as JavaScript is concerned, yeah, although it is h that starts it, it is a lowercase h, not uppercase h, right? So we will get false unless we change it to the uppercase h. So the same principle basically goes with the ends with, right? So if we come here and do, let me Ctrl D to minimize the stress. Ends with, no, a dot ends with h. Okay, let's go with h first, right? So we will see true for the starts with and we will see false for the ends with, because h starts the value of variable a, but it is not h that ends it. Now let's run our code. We see true and false. Now when we go back here and we change it to O, to the letter O, we'll expect to see true. Save, come down here and run the code. And we can see true for both. Then there are some methods that their usage is a little bit tricky. For example, the slice method. And actually, the trickier it gets, the more useful they become, right? Like the slice method. Now, slice method is used to extract a section of a string and return it as a new string. And what I'm trying to say is it won't modify the original string. What we simply get as our output is a new string entirely. For example, let's do something really long and say, let passion equals I love programming. I don't know how to spell programming, and I love it. I love programming and technology in general. I just want us to do something a little bit long. So what happens in this case? When we do console.log, and let me remind you something, just in case you find yourself in a situation where you need to write a really long string and you can't contain it within the line that you can see, and you want to take it to the next line. When you do something like this, no. When you do something like this, like you divide it in the middle, right? Let's take it down. Let's take half of it down. Okay, let's do something like this. We'll see an error. So how to avoid it is to simply put a backslash. Is it backslash or forward slash? Yeah, a backslash. So that solves the problem. Now, what next are we going to do? Let's console.log passion and see. We'll expect our code to work perfectly fine. Passion. Right? So let's save the code. Come down here. So we get I love programming and technology in general. Even after dividing it here with the backslash, we still get everything on the same line. So that's just a trick to help us bring everything to our point of view. Now let's go ahead and try the methods we really want to try with the code. So when we do console.log log passion dot slice, right? So what are we going to do? Let's say we want to print out I love programming. So let's count how many is it going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, 17 characters we need to print out. So what are we going to do? We will take it from where we want it to start from and the place we want it to end. So remember, in JavaScript, everything is zero based. When we want to count it, the index number is zero based, right? So we do 0 separated by comma, and where it ended 17. That's all we have to do. Save the code, come down here and run it. So we get I love programming. Oh, I cut it off. Is it 17 or 18? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's 18. So let's change the 7 to 8, right? And we'll save it. We'll expect the code to work perfectly fine now. Yeah, I love programming. There you have it. So if it happens that you want to print it from the end, for instance, let's say you want to say general without the rest, you can simply do, or there is also a way you can do it. Let's say you just want to print half of it. So we can remove the 0, and when we save, we'll expect to see and technology in general without I love programming. So let's do it and see what we get. And technology in general, because that is what we get after the index number 18. So let's go back there and do something, another thing interesting. Let's add the 0 first, and yeah. So come down here, Ctrl D, and let's change it. And let's say we want to print something from the end, right? So how do we print it from the end? coming like this, we begin to use minus. So from the L in general, it is minus 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, minus 7, comma, minus 1. Right? So let's save and we come down here, run the code. What do we expect to see? General. Oh, sorry, minus 0. Yeah, I made a mistake there. Control S. Oh, minus 0. Okay, minus 7, then it prints everything from the end to where minus 7 is. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is, or if you want to print something in the middle and not in the end, what you can do is, let's say you want to print just in, right? So we are going to do minus 8, minus 9, minus 10, the space between technology and in is minus 11, and the space between in and general is minus 8. So we are going to do minus 11, comma, minus 8. Oh, that's minus 1, minus 8. So get whatever is between those two numbers. So we get in. So one of the things you should remember whenever using slide is that if you want to print something from the middle, the first argument it receives should be the lowest number. 0 is obviously lower than 18, and minus 11 is lower than minus 8. So that's how it works. Then in a situation where you want to, let's assume you are building an application and you want your users' data, maybe their name or whatsoever, to be converted to uppercase after writing it. So we can, there is a method for that. So there's uppercase method and there's lowercase method. So let's do something like let my pet equals dog. Oh, sorry, write it wrong. It's capital P. Let my pet equals dog. So now we go ahead and add the method to it. Console.log my pet dot to uppercase. My pet dot to uppercase. Sorry. Then we'll save it. Okay, let's just do it to lowercase. There's no need. It works the same way with uppercase. If you want it to be in lowercase, you use dot to lowercase. You want it to be in uppercase, you use to uppercase. Then when you are typing it, you see something like to locale uppercase. Well, they work the same way, just that locale uppercase work for certain regions. You understand? That's just different between them. So when you enter it, we expect to see dog in uppercase, even though the string is in lowercase. But the to uppercase method has converted it to uppercase. Now there is also trim method. Now the trim method is used to remove needless white spaces, right, from our string. Now what kind of white spaces am I talking about? Let's say let's C equals, and once again remember it's just because we are messing around with this. This is just a tutorial. Whenever you are building projects, make sure your variable names are meaningful. In fact, let's go back and change it and do something meaningful. Let's say hi. Okay, I think that will work. Let's say hi equals space hi space. Right now, you see this needless white space there. What if we want to get rid of it? Now let's first see it in the terminal. Console.log say hi, save and run the code. We'll expect hi with space at the back and space at the front, right? So what if we trim it? Let's do dot trim. You invoke it, save, and we run the code. You see the white space has been removed. Now if it happens in a situation where you want to remove the space in the beginning, you use the trim start method. It removes only the space in the beginning, but the space in the end still remains. So when we save it, we'll still see that the space in the beginning has been removed. Now when we do trim end, save, then we'll see that the space at the end has been removed. So you see there is space at the beginning, but the space at the end has been removed. So that's really all for string methods. You can go to MDN and mess around with string methods. They are very, very interesting and fun to work with, and a very good way to get conversant with programming. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support, and once again, remember, a sub to the channel will be very much appreciated, and it will make me happy. See you soon in the next video. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about strings as objects. Why I'm ending the video now is because it's already longer than I planned. I don't want the videos in this series to be longer than 30 minutes at most. And the concept I want to talk about, which is about string objects, it will take time because I want to explain it in details. So in the next video, I'll be doing that. Thank you once again for watching. Bye for now.